What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Ben on Sports, the third episode of this week, and continuing on with another weekly series. It is the NASCAR Weekly Predictions and Preview episode. Four races left in the season. We just eliminated some drivers. Let's get into a Las Vegas preview. Some storylines. SVG wins another road course, 5 consecutive road course wins for SVG. And with how competitive the field normally is on a race weekend, I don't think it's unfair to say SVG might already be the best road course racer in NASCAR history. What a shock. Larson and Bell tried to take it to him, but they just burned up too much tires, and SVG won easily going away yet again at a road course. There's a lot of work the rest of the field has to do to catch up to SVG, and a lot of work the playoff needs to do to maybe change some standards. Four more drivers eliminated from the playoffs. That's right. We went from 12 to 8. Now we are entering, starting with Las Vegas, the three race round of 8. We said goodbye to 23XI Racing and Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace. Austin Cindric becomes the first Team Penske car eliminated. And Ross Chastain, despite almost having enough heroics, just made too many mistakes at the end of the day, and he also goes home as well. Ross Chastain just brought him up. Made too many mistakes on the day, right? Two mistakes on pit road ultimately cost him, but he was still right there. Needed one position coming to the checkered flag. On worse tires, tries to get to Denny Hamlin and spin him out, but he spins himself out and ends up going home. A little bit of controversy here or there. You shouldn't be able to clean somebody out, I would say, to advance the playoffs, but you should be able to bump them. You should be able to move them a little bit. You shouldn't be able to wreck them. It's something that's kind of happened a couple times. So it would have been interesting to see what NASCAR's precedent, if that would have been something they would have allowed this week going into Vegas. However, don't have to worry about it because Ross Chastain spun himself out. That's why you have to do your work earlier in the race so that doesn't become a problem. Should the Roval be done with? The mile-and-a-half intermediates have been the best racing in the next-gen car. Why are we still racing on the Roval? It's gimmicky. The road courses now just are going to be won by Shane Van Gisbergen. Yeah, maybe the tires were a little bit better, but there's just not a lot of passing. The Roval is no longer serving its purpose. The Roval is no longer that interesting. It was fun maybe for 2 or 3 years. I understand you want to have a road course in the playoffs. I think most people can agree that the racing is better on an intermediate, and if you're going to go to Charlotte that week, should probably return. I know what they have on the schedule next year, but yeah, the Roval probably should be done with. Let me know in the comments what you think. Still not a clear championship favorite. I feel like normally by the round of 8, there's, even if it's 2 or 3 drivers, there's still favorites or a favorite, somebody or a group of drivers that has separated themselves. That still hasn't really happened. You can see it with the point situation. I do think maybe there's a group of 5 drivers, but then there's some drivers that are hot right now that maybe can leap ahead of them. I still don't think there's a championship favorite. I still think this season is wide open and should be incredibly interesting going down the stretch. And then speaking of it being wide open, is Joey Logano going to do it again? If you look at the total season of work, Joey Logano, I would say by far, has been the worst out of the 8 round of 8 drivers. But Joey Logano has done this before, both in 2022 and 2024. He finds a way to hang around in the playoffs, and then something happens in the round of 8, and then he wins the championship at Phoenix. I'll reveal that to you a little bit later in the episode, but this just has the makings of a classic Joey Logano stealing a championship from somebody despite being a borderline top 10 driver most of the season. And that is exactly why this playoff format should go away. And honestly, I'm tired of Joey talking crap about it. I know, right? He's the heel, he's the bad guy, and he relishes in that role, making more, you know, jerk comments, making comments to really play into that character after the race, saying it was a championship performance riding around in 20th on a road course when all of your other championship contenders, except for one, were significantly ahead of you. And again, I know this is Joey's whole thing, but I think if you ask Joey in his heart of hearts, historically, the way motorsports have been run and in the spirit of the sport, did he really deserve the 2022 or 2024, especially 2024 championship? Probably not. And if he would have been one of the drivers at the front, he would have been complaining about it. Just because him and his crew chief are good at gaming an incredibly broken and flawed format doesn't mean that he is the same three-time champion that somebody like Tony Stewart was. Gosh forbid he wins it this year doing the same thing. Is he really the same driver as Jeff Gordon because they both have 4 championships? I don't think so. Maybe Joey, though, definitely shaping up to be maybe a time where he does it again. I'll get off of that rant. NASCAR is adding some more horsepower. It was announced this week for next season. I'm excited. NASCAR seems like all of a sudden they're magically willing to listen to fans and try and make the changes that fans are asking for, and hopefully, and even the drivers are asking for, and hopefully that will continue to make racing at all tracks better. And hopefully they continue to work on that solution because we should have good racing at every type of track, regardless of intermediate, super speedway, short track, road course, and NASCAR should work to try and make sure the racing is good at all types of tracks. So I'm hoping horsepower is part of the solution, adding it. Because I know drivers have been asking for it going back to the last generation of cars. And last but not least here, more legal drama in the 23XI Front Row Motorsports lawsuit against NASCAR. I will try and quickly summarize this from my point of view, but I want to preface it by saying I am not a law professional, okay? Law professionals would probably be much better suited to talk to about this, people who have knowledge of the court system and the way things work. But it's not going to stop me. I haven't talked a whole lot about it. It's not going to stop me from trying to explain my very narrow viewpoint on this issue. NASCAR made a motion to get, I believe it was either a new judge or have a new judge here and kind of be the, what's it called? I literally had all of this planned out. I was going to say, let me incredibly oversimplify this from my point of view. NASCAR made an attempt this week, or NASCAR is asking the current judge of the case to essentially get somebody new to rule on it, to have a new moderator. That's the word I was looking for. A new moderator in the conflict, and it seems like it's a sign of weakness to me. 23XI Front Row lawyers like, hey, we don't want to do that. We've always been willing to settle. We've always been open to settle. But shouldn't it be with the person that has been with the case the entire time and somebody that doesn't have to get caught up on months of court rulings and decisions and courtroom discussion? Probably, and which is a fair point. And I think it's the first sign of weakness from NASCAR, because you could argue for most of this, NASCAR's had all the cards. NASCAR is stronger. They're the bigger entity. But I think 23XI just scored a point in the fact that NASCAR all of a sudden, I don't feel like, I feel like both sides would have been open to settling out of court, but it hasn't really been pushed from either side. And now all of a sudden I feel like NASCAR really, really is pushing for it, which probably is signaling maybe they don't love the results that might be coming. Or at least the other part is there's a discovery process where a lot of things get figured out, a lot of conversations and phone calls and emails, a lot of things that happen behind closed doors that maybe NASCAR leadership doesn't want to get out to the press, doesn't want to get out to the public, and most importantly, doesn't want to get out to the owners of all the cars throughout their series. Because maybe they know there's some inflammatory or not great comments in there that are either going to lose them the case or hurt relationships with the owners that they just came out and asked to support them to try and beat 23XI. So with my very limited knowledge, it appears to me that NASCAR doesn't want this to continue to drag out for more reasons than one, but probably because maybe they are learning some information where the case is turning against them, and B, maybe there's some information they don't want to get out. And because, see, if you ask, especially 23XI, I don't think Michael Jordan gives a hoot. Michael Jordan has already said, I'm willing to fight this regardless of consequences and ready to go in. And I don't know if NASCAR has that same attitude. So maybe Michael Jordan's willingness to be that strong and push back on NASCAR that hard maybe it's making NASCAR blink first a little bit. That's at least the notion I'm getting. There's still plenty of time. Anybody can still win, but I think this week makes it seem like 23XI at least maybe holds an advantage going into the court proceedings that are coming up, or they kind of scored a point, or however you want to phrase it, this week against NASCAR. And with that, let's move out of storylines and get into our history at not the Roval, but get into our history at Las Vegas. Recent winners: Alex Bowman won the first race in 2022, and then Joey Logano. It wasn't awful in 22, wasn't great. Makes his way to the round of 8, and then wins at Las Vegas, and then won the championship at Phoenix, where Penske's been really good. And then 2024, William Byron wins early season at Las Vegas. And then his teammate Kyle Larson wins in the round of 8 in 2023. Kyle Larson then wins again the next race in March. And then Joey Logano, after having a terrible season last year, finds his way through to the round of 8 somehow. And after a disqualification of Alex Bowman at the Roval, if you guys remember last year, what happens? Joey Logano won Las Vegas and then won the championship a couple weeks later at Phoenix. I'm seeing a trend in the next gen. When Joey Logano is struggling, and what is really funny is Penske, outside of Ryan Blaney, to me, has largely struggled at mile-and-a-half intermediates in the next gen car. But somehow Joey Logano, which Logano and Paul Wolf, his crew chief, together are a really good combination. When they find their way to the round of 8 in the next gen car, apparently they just win at Vegas, make it to the championship 4, and win the championship. So if I'm the drivers, I want to make sure Joey Logano does not win this race, because this is the 4th year of the next gen car. In 2 of the 3 previous years, a very specific thing has happened, and it's led to the wrong person winning the championship. That's all I'm going to say. And then, of course, earlier this year, Josh Berry picked up his first career win with Wood Brothers, who is an associate and kind of a 4th Team Penske car. So pretty much what I'm telling you is Team Penske and Hendrick Motorsports have won every single race at Las Vegas in the next-gen car. Most top 5, or let's go to best average finish. Ross Chastain, the guy who was just eliminated, has the best average finish in the next-gen car at Vegas, followed by 3 Hendrick Motorsports Chevys with William Byron, Kyle Larson, and Alex Bowman. And then Joey Logano, who has 2 wins here, still only has an average finish of 12.6. And then 2 retired champions, grizzled vets, also would be top 5 if they still race. Truex with an average finish of 7.3, and Kevin Harvick with 12.3. Most top 5s in 7 races. Ross Chastain by himself at the top with 5. 2 drivers tied at 4, Larson and Byron. 3 drivers tied at 3, Alex Bowman, Kyle Busch, and Christopher Bell. Most top 10s. 3 drivers tied at 6 with Ross Chastain, William Byron, and Martin Truex Jr. Obviously, Truex actually only raced 6 races here, so he went 100% in top 10 finishes in the next-gen car here. Kyle Larson at 5, and 4 drivers tied at 4. Alex Bowman, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, and Tyler Reddick. A lot of big names and a lot of big teams with success at Las Vegas. Favorites to win Las Vegas. Team rankings. Hendrick Motorsports. Number 1, Kyle Larson has won multiple races here. Bowman has been good here. William Byron has been good here. Hendrick Motorsports has to be the favorite. Team Penske, I have second. Logano has won twice on his way to winning championships in the fall here. Their associate car won here in the spring with Josh Berry. Team Penske is up there. While Joe Gibbs has not won, Truex historically has been good here. Bell has good runs here. Denny Hamlin has good runs here. Joe Gibbs Racing also seems to be pretty good at intermediates in general this year. Joe Gibbs at any oval track is going to be one of the top competitors. I expect no different here. Trackhouse Racing. Suarez finished second in this race for Trackhouse. Remember that in the spring. Ross Chastain has been arguably the best driver at Vegas from an average finish perspective, from a top 5 perspective. So obviously Chastain is good. Trackhouse Racing should be fast. And then after those 4 teams, I'm like, there's really not a whole lot, 23XI has some runs RFK. So I just kind of looked at overall average finishing positions. I looked at who was successful here in the spring. I looked at who's been good at mile and a half in the next gen, and that brought me to RFK Racing being fast this weekend. I think RFK could be fast. I think all three cars could be in top 10 contention. Give me RFK Racing to be that fifth team that I normally have. Driver rankings on terms of my favorites to win. Kyle Larson, they are bringing more speed, more consistently the last couple weeks, which is a good sign for Kyle Larson in the 5 team, especially with how close these playoff points are. He's won here multiple times. I think Kyle Larson could break a pretty long winless streak for him. Something he doesn't have a lot of at Hendrick Motorsports, long winless streaks. Maybe he finally breaks it this weekend. Byron has been touch and go a lot, but he's been fast at Vegas. Hendrick Motorsports is fast at Vegas. I think that William Byron is fast this weekend. Joe Logano was third, despite I don't think being deserving of this ranking on speed alone. Him and Paul Wolf seem to find ways to get good finishes. Joe Logano has won the October race 2 out of the last 3 years, and being that he's the only guy that is separated from the top drivers in this round of 8, a win would be of massive help for him, especially going into Talladega, a track where anything can happen. So I will give Joey Logano the credit. I'm starting to think he's going to win the championship based on history. Give me Ross Chastain, a driver who's been very good and consistent here, as another guy that should be in the top 5 all day and is likely to win. Alex Bowman has won here before. Again, I've talked about it. Hendrick Motorsports is the most consistently fast team at this track. I expect Alex Bowman, who also has been good here, to be in the top 5 and top 10 all day. Christopher Bell has been good at intermediates this year. Christopher Bell has had some good runs here. Joe Gibbs Racing has 3 drivers in the playoffs. They need to bring speed or they are going to be in trouble the rest of the round. I think Christopher Bell has a good week this week. Same thing for Denny Hamlin, almost the same exact thing. Denny Hamlin's always going to be one of the favorites at any oval track in NASCAR. Honestly, he's very rarely all the way down in 7th, but has had some trouble here next gen. Sometimes it's bad luck. Sometimes it's, variety of reasons. I think Denny Hamlin shows up this week because he has to. Chase Elliott really hasn't had a lot of success at this track, but he won the last intermediate that NASCAR was at in Kansas. All 3 of his teammates have been very good here and have had a lot of speed here. I think Chase Elliott finally shows up at Vegas and shows some speed. Chris Buescher has been very good at intermediate tracks with RFK Racing pretty much the entirety of the next-gen car. I think it will be no different this year, and I think Chris Buescher continues to show speed. And then Ryan Blaney, he's been very good at intermediates. He's been arguably the most consistently fast driver at every type of track. While he doesn't have numbers backing up Vegas speed, I think he's still going to bring it. Again, he has Logano has 2 wins here. Josh Berry, Josh Berry, an associate car, has a win here. I think that number 12 team will be dialed in, ready to clinch their way to Phoenix, where they will be one of the favorites if they make it. Current playoff standings, 4 drivers will be eliminated. Remember, this round is a 1.5 mile intermediate at Vegas, a super speedway at Talladega, and then a short track at Martinsville. So quite a wide variety of tracks here. And a lot of these guys have had good finishes at all types of those tracks. And you see how close this is. Denny Hamlin is the number 1 seed in this playoff round. He is only +8 to the cut line. Blaney is +6. Larson and Byron are tied at +4. Christopher Bell at -4. Chase Briscoe and Chase Elliott are tied at -14. And Joe Logano all the way down there at -24. This means the gap from 1st to 7th in the playoffs is 22, and then Joey Logano is -10 back of all of them. So this is really a close round. You generally don't see most rounds this close at all, and you don't see a lot of round of 8s this close because you have a couple cars that really have a lot of extra playoff points. Not the case this year. Any one of these drivers could point their way in with a strong round. Any one of these drivers could go out on points. Any one of these drivers, I think all 8 of these drivers are capable of winning at least one of these tracks, if not all 3 of them. This round could be really exciting. and with no championship favorite, it could get really, really wild. Um, I really, really keep saying that Joey Logano, I think, has been the least consistent and the farthest behind the other 7 this season. But I think Joey Logano might find a way in. He's won at Vegas, as I've said multiple occasions. He's usually fast at super speedways, even if he doesn't always have the finish to back it up, because he usually wrecks himself out. And then Martinsville is a short, flat track, and Team Penske's been very good at those. I have no idea who's coming out. Any one of these 8 drivers could, but you have to like guys like Blaney, Larson, and Hamlin who have shown speed all year. I think those are the 3 most likely people to advance the top 3 seeds. They've been the most consistently fast. William Byron, if the first half of the year, he won the regular season championship. He was fast most of the season. Just kind of been touch and go from the midsummer to now. But William Byron's good at a lot but all 3 of the remaining tracks, so maybe that gets him home. Christopher Bell, incredibly fast. He's had a pretty good playoffs as well. I think that these top 5, the 1 through 5 seeds, are clearing away the top 5, but there's not a big gap between them and the other 3. I don't know. I didn't go 4 for 4 last round on who I thought was going home. I think I got 3 out of 4, and Chase Elliott was the only one I didn't think was going to make it. And then, of course, he went out and won. If you made me pick, I guess I would pick Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney, and Kyle Larson as my 4 drivers to advance to the championship 4. And that would be quite an interesting championship 4. I just think with the 4 tracks left in the current point situation, I like those 4 drivers the best. But a William Byron or a Chase Elliott making it would not surprise me either. Even Chase Briscoe, who's been good at intermediates this year, he's always good at Martinsville. And maybe he finds some speed at Talladega. Joey Logano, I've already talked about. It really can be any of the 4 drivers, but if you made me pick, I'm going to go with Hamlin, Blaney, Larson, and Bell as your championship 4 this season. It's hard leaving out the regular season champ, but he has not been as solid in the playoffs in the really last 2 months as the other 4 guys I mentioned. And then my playoff power rankings, Christopher Bell had a good round, was able to go out there and fight with Van Gisbergen a little bit. I think Bell and Larson were 2 of both were good last week, which will give them some momentum. Both of them, again, had okay rounds. I think Bell was a little bit better than Larson this round. Ryan Blaney won a race last round. Wasn't great at the Roval, but he isn't normally. I mean, he had a decent day, a good enough day. Ryan Blaney, again, I think might be the driver that brings speed the most consistently at every type of racetrack. Ryan Blaney, number 3. Chase Briscoe is still on that extended hot streak. His top 10 streak finally ended at the Roval. He did run in and around the top 10 most of the day, but he went on that 2-pit strategy at stage 3, and he just couldn't quite pass his way all the way back up into the top 10. I think given a couple more laps, he would have ended up there. But Chase Briscoe still finds a way to finish with good days. I do think it's going to take a win or something catastrophic happening for another driver for him to have a chance. But he's fast at Martinsville. He leads laps at Martinsville, and he's been good on intermediates, both qualifying and in race. So maybe he finds his way, but he is hot coming into this round and has been more consistent than the guys below him. Denny Hamlin, not a great round, but he had enough points cushion, got enough stage points. Kansas was really good for him, but New Hampshire really wasn't great. The Roval wasn't great, but had a good points cushion and got enough points to advance out of the round and into a round maybe that favors him a little bit more. Chase Elliott winning a race at Kansas, but outside of that, I haven't been too impressed with him most of the playoffs. He's kind of been up and down. For Chase Elliott, it's all going to come down to qualifying, I think. William Byron, regular season champion, is all the way down in 7. Maybe that's crazy. Again, he's somebody that can be good at road courses. He's won multiple super speedway races. Hendrick always has speed at short tracks and mile and a halves. I just feel like William Byron hasn't been the same consistent William Byron that everybody is used to the last month or so. And I think that that performance going up and down is going to hurt him. I still think, he has he's starting above the cut line, so he has the inside track, but he is up and down. So purely based on a power rankings where recent performance is incredibly important. I give William Byron 7. And those 7 drivers are all green because because those are the drivers most of the season. 6 of them coming into the season that I said are the guys who are able to win the championship and should be considered championship favorites. And then Joey Logano is in blue because he is the enigma of Joey Logano that everybody talks about. Sometimes really good, sometimes really bad. Finds his way into the playoffs, finds his way to narrowly escape advancing through rounds, and then all of a sudden winds up in the championship at Phoenix where Penske dominates, and Penske's been really good and wins the championship. And that is the same Joey Logano we're getting this year. So I give Joey Logano 8 because he's the least consistent. I think he's the only one out of these 8 drivers that did not finish the top 10 this season in points. In fact, 6 of these drivers were the top 6 in points, and then Briscoe was 8th, narrowly missed out on 7th, and then Logano was 11th or 12th. So Logano, I think, is a little bit behind the rest of the field, but he'll find a way, I'm sure, to make it to the championship 4 and win his 4th championship. His third one of which will be, let's just call it, interesting. Let me know below who you guys think wins this weekend. Let me know if you guys are scared of another classic Joey Logano championship in this format. And also let me know what 4 drivers you think get eliminated this cut line in the comments below. Thank you guys for taking time out of your days, your weeks, your lives for listening. Make sure you guys find a couch, some incredible sports action going on this weekend. It's a great time of year, almost time for the sports eclipse. The NBA just needs to start up. And again, just this fall time, the weather's getting colder, getting to the holiday season is always great for sports. Please, please, please like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on X. Everybody, take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of your friends. Stay safe out there. Peace out.